I'm going to show you 10 things that Jack Skellington from The Nightmare Before Christmas teaches us about his shame and how he dealt with it. He not only fully resolves his shame, but he ends up feeling joyful again to be himself and excited for the future. I'm Dr. Narayan Singh. You're watching EFT Psychologist. If you haven't seen this movie, a quick overview is that Jack Skellington is an icon in Halloween Town. This is a spooky place where Halloween is the big celebration each year. But Jack stumbles into Christmas Town and becomes inspired. So he tries to be Santa Claus one year, but it goes horribly wrong. He and his sleigh end up getting shot out of the sky. So here's my breakdown of Jack's emotional process that he shows in this song. First, he does seem to be in disbelief and beating himself up.
What have I done? What have I done?
I see him somewhat taking responsibility. He's not making excuses and he's not blaming anyone else. And that's an effective way to deal with this, minus the beating up part. Second, he shows the action tendency for shame, to hide a part of the self that feels unacceptable.
Find a deep cave to hide in a million years they'll find me only dust.
So an action tendency is jargon for how an emotion spurs us to take some sort of associated action. So one really commonly known action tendency is in response to fear, which is the fight or flight response. And I won't get on a soapbox now in this video about how that is now an incomplete explanation of the action tendency for fear, but I digress. Here, Jack is telling us what his shame is pulling him to do, to hide in a cave for the rest of his life. Third, Jack describes what his shame is about, so he's very clear about it.
And a flag that reads, "Here lies poor old Jack."
And in his case, it's a legacy of being a pitiful failure and known for being the destroyer of Christmas for the rest of time. Fourth, he's really fully feeling his shame. You can see how he's laying upside down, his eyes are closed, he is fully in it and allowing himself to feel the brunt emotional pain of it. So one thing I want to mention about points 2, 3, and 4 is that I see these as Jack fully articulating the various aspects of his shame. Not only how it feels, what he believes about himself, but also his action tendency. These are all ways taken together that show he's fully feeling this emotion and allowing himself to feel the pain of it, even though it sucks. Fifth, this is where he starts to do something I see as really crucial. He starts to affirm something that's true about his experience.
But I never intended all this madness. Never.
What I really like about what Jack does here with his shame is he just so naturally touches this place inside himself and connects emotionally with another feeling he does genuinely feel about himself. He never meant to make this go wrong. His intention was good. And it's like from this naturally touching this place. He didn't have to force it or convince himself to feel this. He connects with this, and it's like out of that, he's able to affirm this for himself and start the process of actually resolving this shame. Sixth, once he connects with this part of his identity, it seems to gain momentum. So for instance, he becomes more able to recontextualize his experience and his perspective of others.
And nobody really understood. Well, how could they?
I don't think this is a criticism of others here that he's saying. I think it's kind of a continuation of him processing through and keeping this space for just himself, that he can affirm what is true for him regardless of what anyone else thinks. Seventh, so then Jack goes on to further affirm his intention, and he even shows excitement about what he really wanted.
That all I ever wanted was to bring them something great.
This is showing that this shame is really transforming and a new emotion is starting to emerge in its place. Eighth, so this one I think is a little bit of a detour from his otherwise effective emotional processing up to this point.
Why does nothing ever turn out like it should?
I think of a couple possible interpretations of this. Maybe A, Jack is affirming a healthy expectation that things just don't go according to plan sometimes, and that's okay. Or maybe B, he's feeling angry about how things sometimes don't go according to plan, but it doesn't seem to knock him off course. He still is able, in the 9th point, to shrug it off and talk about how rich and rewarding the experience was.
Well, what the heck? I went and did my best, and my God, I really tasted something swell.
10th, he's really affirming himself and how fulfilled he feels being himself.
And for the first time since I don't remember when, I felt just like my old lonely self again.
how he feels a renewed sense of connection with his identity.
And I, Jack, the Pumpkin King. That's right. I am the Pumpkin King.
And he's even excited to express his identity and be himself in Halloweens to come.
And I just can't wait until next Halloween, 'cause I've got some new ideas that will really make them scream.
This shows he's really valuing himself from the inside out. He doesn't have to force this, fake it till you make it sort of thing. It's really coming from within. And I think that this shows he's having a brand new emotional experience that fully transformed this shame. My hunch here now is that when Jack looks back on this experience, he might remember the emotional pain of the shame. But I think he's more likely now that he's resolved this shame to remember how fulfilled he feels about being himself and the excitement he felt about enjoying this time he had and looking forward to the next Halloweens. So a caveat here is Jack has worked through fresh shame that just happened. This isn't a shame that is old and stuck, because that would take somewhat of a different approach. It would probably feel much more emotionally painful, and it would likely take a bit more work. Now I want to give you my reimagination of this scene. Let's say Jack was struggling to resolve this shame. One thing I often help my clients do in emotion-focused therapy is when they're fully feeling their painful emotion, to have them ask themselves and their emotion, what do I need? And then slow down and tune into their body and wait for a response. From within, then they can find out what they need. So in Jack's case, maybe he could have found out, I need to feel that I'm worthwhile still and that my intention was good. And I think this would have helped him turn the corner in transforming the shame. So if you want to learn more about the meaning behind moment-by-moment shifts in emotion, feel free to like this video, subscribe to my channel, watch my other videos. Or you can even rewatch this video because it was pretty densely packed with information. If you're a therapist and you want to attend an upcoming training, check out the link below, visit my Institute's webpage, and I'd love to see you there. So there it is. These are the 10 things that we learned from Jack Skellington about his shame and how he dealt with it. I'm Dr. Narayan Singh. Thanks for watching EFT Psychologist.